I'm now speaking with Ken Richardson, candidate for City Council from 1st District.
Yes, correct.
Ken, welcome here. I just haven't had a chance to talk with you yet. Why are you running for 1st District City Council?
Well, I think, Eric, the thing that's most important for us from a politician standpoint or an elected official standpoint is that we have people who understand the basic needs of our constituents and our citizens. My background is very varied. I've grown up in this community, raised a family. I have grandchildren now in this community, so I'm very vested in this community. I own a small business. I think I have an understanding of what some of the business people are looking for and expecting from the community. I know what the average citizen's looking for. And my family is fairly new to this country. My mother's family came here just one generation ago. I'm the first born in this country. I have a deep respect and admiration for the values and principles under which this country was formed and we live. And I don't want to see deviation from that. I hate to see it sometimes at a national level, and I'd like to make sure that we remain as true to our Constitution and our American values as possible in the local community. I have some concerns over the handling of our budget. I don't think we've done a terribly bad job. I'm excited to see revitalization of some neighborhoods and improvement of our cityscape in the downtown area. I think we need to make sure we don't ignore outlying areas.
But I want to get into that. But you said a whole lot here. I want to.
Okay.
You said your mom came from a different country.
Yes.
That experience, since you're the first one born here in America, your family background, what has that specifically taught you about America and the American way? What you said a lot of things, but specifically, how has that shaped your insights?
Okay. My mother's family migrated here from a small Macedonian village in northern Greece in 1951. They lived through the Nazi occupation. They lived through various Balkan wars prior to that. And after the Second World War, when the Allies drove the Nazis out of Europe, the communists started their attempt to take over various countries throughout Europe, and Greece being one of them. During that period of time, my grandfather, along with many other village men, were armed with little shotgun hunting rifles, were responsible for defending the village. During the course of that, the communist raiders, marauders, over a period of time discovered who the individuals were that were armed and systematically burned the farms. My family was a farming family. Burned out the farm. My family was forced to flee to a local village nearby, lived for 3 years in a one-room apartment with 12 other, now they were a family of 5, mind you, and they lived with 12 other individuals.
In America?
No, in Greece. In Greece, in a one-room apartment, until they were able to, under the Displaced Persons Act after World War II, get permission to move to the United States. But prior to that, they had to show that they had transportation, a job, a place to live. There was no handout. There was nothing. It wasn't a matter of come here and there's all types of social welfare and services available. They had to prove that they had these things in place before they could come here. And so it was quite a struggle to get all of that put in place. When they got here, they were so grateful. I remember my grandfather saying, "The streets of America are paved with gold," and I said, "I don't see it." As a child, "Where's the gold? I want to pick some of it up." And he said, "You don't understand. The opportunity that these people have here, that we have here now, is tremendous. We didn't have that there. We couldn't have had that there. Life was so primitive and disruptive there that we're so grateful." And I grew up with that sense of gratitude. So I sometimes I'm a little concerned when I see us deviating away from the principles that formed this country and created the cornucopia that we have here.
But what you just described, I don't know, the society in Greece at the time, I don't know if it was market driven or if it was still almost tradition based. But what I'm getting at is, when you come from that kind of an environment, you're looking for a job, you're looking for something to grab a hold to survive. But somehow you jump from that and somehow something ignited an entrepreneurial spirit
Yes.
within you. How did out of that kind of a background, how did an entrepreneurial spirit find itself? Because when you strike out to start a business or in that direction, you don't have any guarantees.
No, there are no guarantees. The only guarantee is failure if you don't try. I guess the spirit of striving for something better, and when wanting better, and having some piece of the American pie and the American dream is what drove me. I left my parents' home when I was 16 years old. We were poor. You know, the opportunity was not great there. The ethics were strong, the values were strong, the just opportunity wasn't there. I left, set out on my own. I started early. It wasn't easy. It was tough, but I learned a lot from that. By the time I was 18 years old, I was able to take custody of a younger brother and pull him out of that. The whole goal there was to create something better from what I was handed. And from there, I eventually started my own business, and I'm proud to say that I'm still doing well.
Now, once you become in the city council, what will your first initiative be? I mean, what do you want to change? What displeases you to make you want to run?
Well, I have some concerns over taxation. I mean, ultimately, I think as Americans and as working people and taxpayers, we have a right to expect fiduciary responsibility from our elected officials. They owe us the explanation and the stewardship of our tax dollars. I'm not at all pleased with the Lowit tax that was placed on us last year. I know some people will argue that it's a minimal tax. One of the things that Governor Mitch Daniels did several years ago was placed a property tax cap on real estate throughout the state of Indiana. And the challenge there for local municipalities was to learn to work within our budget, to be creative, to know not what we have today, but based on maximum tax caps, what we're going to have tomorrow to work with. And so rather than choose to do that, our city council imposed a new layered tax upon us, the Lowit tax, to make up what they perceived as a deficit from those tax caps. The other thing I don't like is you turn on the news, you look at the newspaper, and you see budget cuts here and education cuts, and everybody blames everything on the property tax caps. Again, the challenge to us was to learn to live within our means and not overburden taxpayers in order to add more and more and more service and less efficiency to government.
I guess what I'm getting at is, what is your vision for Fort Wayne? What kind of a city do you want Fort Wayne to be? Because a lot of people are complaining that we don't have an identity.
I'm a native of Fort Wayne. I'm 53 years old. I've lived here all of my life. One thing that was very disappointing for several decades was to see the decline of our downtown area and decline of the surrounding neighborhoods. I don't think we need to put all of our eggs in one basket in the downtown redevelopment scenario, but what we'd have to remember is that from an outsider's perspective, the cityscape and the vision of downtown is representative of what Fort Wayne may be. So I understand the attention drawn to there, and I think we've done a good job of rebuilding that area. Something that concerns me is that we make sure to pay attention to the surrounding area and the surrounding neighborhoods. Something I'd like to see is neighborhood associations have a stronger voice and a stronger sense of connection to City Council. I think at one point in time we did, and we've kind of drifted away from that. There are various needs that our neighborhoods have and various concerns. Some of them can be addressed by monetary means or through our budget. Some of them just need to be explained from an official standpoint. And I think we need to kind of draw ourselves back to that grassroots position. In terms of my vision for downtown, I was very excited, as I'm sure everybody was, to see the little video clip of the downtown river development and the plans there. Who wouldn't want that in their city? But there's a cost for everything. I'm very fearful the sense of excitement that the legacy funds have created. You know, those funds were not by accident. 40 years ago, our city administration planned through the city light lease a trust in the event that we ever took the lease, the city light distribution back from Indiana, Michigan. That's where that trust came from. And so that sum of money there wasn't by chance. You know, of the $1 million+ whatever it was that we received annually, only $270,000 of that annually was placed into the fund. And it's grown to the $40 million that it is now, but somehow we've got it in our minds, I think, when you listen to people talk, that we can spend and spend and spend that money and it's always going to be there, and it's not. I think if we're going to do anything transformational with it, which was what the intent was, that we've got to think very carefully about what we do. I advocate for placing most or all of the money into an endowment type account and using the interest and dividends from that to fund transformational programs. It's going to do two things, Eric. It's going to not only provide a source of future revenue for projects, but it's also going to set an example or teach to our future generations that there's some benefit or merit in saving. We've kind of lost that whole mentality. Everything is borrow, 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 and where can we get the next dollar, and let's bond this and leverage that, and there's some value and merit to saving. If we have that money there and we can show that it's there, it shows those future generations that we had the forethought that the administration did 40 years ago, and that we're still have some conservative values here. We've got some foundation on which to build in the future.
You know, I was just sitting here thinking here, you know, about your own personal background. Right now, there's a movement here in Fort Wayne, downtown, of inclusion. Mm-hmm. And the main focus is on the newer ethnic groups to Fort Wayne. Now, like right now, last time I checked, there were about 75 different languages being taught being spoken at Southside. And we're focusing on the new arrivals. Mm-hmm. We're focusing on the short, fat people, gay community, people, humpbacks, you know, whatever. I mean, all the other new groups, and we want to create an environment where it's just a big group hug. Now, my issue with that concept was, if you're going to create an inclusion environment, there had to be exclusion, and in this instance, it was the Indians that occupied this land here, and the blacks. But for some reason, people don't want to discuss that because they feel like that's too negative, and people are tired of hearing about that, and it creates dissension. But yet, unless you have a context for inclusion, the whole concept of emancipation won't make sense. What I'm getting at is your family's involvement with Nazis and the whole thing there. I would think that all of your kids and everybody should know this. You know, should want to know this because that's a part of who you are. And but anyway, can you help me put that in context? How do if it should be, if the local concept should be broad and wide?
Okay. Well, culturally and socially, we always have room for improvement, and we as a people, a human people, need to learn to embrace each other for all of our differences and so forth. In order to gauge the advances that we've made, we have to first look at where we started. And so I understand what you're saying. I think that's what you're saying, is that if you don't know what the starting point was, how do you know that you're making progress? How do you know there's any significant difference between now and then? So by teaching that history and allowing people to understand that we have moved forward from there, but there's still room to go. We've encompassed the history that you're speaking of, and we've addressed a need that we have currently, and we can pat ourselves on the back to some degree for the advances that we have made, be us not perfect.
You know, one thing I've enjoyed so much about talking with different candidates is that they all have good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And my intention is to bottle this. What value do you see in gathering all this here? And I mean, do you think that it really would be instructional for students to read about the group, this whole class of 2015? I mean, a lot of people feel like, I mean, it's never been done before.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to bring that idea to the table.
Well, I appreciate that you contacted me and gave me an opportunity to participate in this, Eric. I think that the more connections we can draw between the voters, our citizens, and the individuals elected to charge the way for them, the better we all are. It creates some level of accountability for the elected officials, and it gives a standard to which you can hold those elected officials for the citizens of our community. So I think it's fine. I think it's good.
You know, as we're winding down here, a moment ago I had to cut you off there. You were talking about the budget and some of the problems that you have with I guess, the approaches to it. Can you sum up what you meant by that, and also include, for the people who don't know you, what is about yourself that they should know when they decide to vote for you?
Okay. Well, kind of getting back into the budget thing, and I'll just throw a number out here. Did you know that there's almost $500 million worth of property in Allen County right now that's being abated? In other words, not taxed. And there's a variety of reasons. I'm not saying I'm all against abatements. Abatements can be used to attract new commerce to our community, to create and stimulate economic development. But I'm a little concerned when I look at the list or ledger of the abatements, and anybody can pull that up from our county auditor's website. It's very transparent. Whether or not all that's necessary, you know, the problem with abatements is, and being a small business person or any business person at all in this community, or even a consumer, when you give that abatement to a select company or corporation or individual, what you're doing is creating a marketing opportunity, or a lack of overhead, a distinct opportunity in the marketplace to that particular individual. You're over their competition. It's not fair. You know, we've got a lot of businesses here who work hard, who don't look for those breaks, who are struggling to compete with the companies who are granted those tax breaks. So it creates an unfair market advantage, and it's not consistent with the principle of free trade and free market. So I have concerns about that. The other thing is, when you give that money away by not charging tax on it, you and I have to make it up. It has to come from somewhere. And if we're not cutting our budget, we're layering new taxes with the Lowit tax, then that's an obvious sign that there's more money needed, or more budget cutting needed. Where I come from, very conservative background. You know, my grandfather, I tell people, used to hang rubber bands, used rubber bands on his doorknobs throughout his house. He was a very hardworking man, brought his family to this country, supported ultimately a family of 7, and they've all done well as a result. But one time as a child, I said to my grandfather, why do you hang these rubber bands on the doorknobs? It's kind of unusual when you'd have someone on his wrist occasionally use rubber bands. He said, while reusing these rubber bands might only save me pennies, there was a time that those pennies made the difference whether we had food on the table. So he used that as a reminder to himself that as available as that opportunity was, it could instantly be taken away and not be available. To be appreciative and resourceful and utilize and conserve. And so that's the environment that I grew up in, and I think it's benefited me a lot. And I think those experiences that I've had for my family, through my business, running a small business, will benefit our local community and the people who live here.
Last question here. Again, you said a whole lot there. what is the right stuff? You know, you know, you have experienced success in the political arena, you experienced success in the business arena, and you've had your particular historic background. When you pull all that together, what are the ingredients? I mean, what does one need? What are the virtues, the characteristics that one needs to be successful in business, in politics, or in life in general?
Well, I think that you know, there are going to be situations that arise. Always. I mean, that's just the nature of life. There are always going to be obstacles and issues that come up. What you need to look for in a politician or in a city leader, let's put it that way, and take politician out of it, as a city leader, is that somebody who will make sound decisions for you, somebody who's going to speak for your best interest, somebody who is going to examine the small picture to better look at the large picture. You know, the excitement of $40 million in our bank account creates the illusion that we've got just tons and tons of money to spend. We've got a $150 million annual budget for the city. $40 million is a pittance. You need somebody who wants to maintain a low tax structure. I believe that government is there to serve the people, not the other way around. Taxes are a tool that our elected officials use in order to provide the needed services to our community. I believe strongly in a strong public safety sector. We need to make sure that our fire departments and our police departments are well funded and have the tools they need in order to serve the community. We need to make sure we keep our taxes moderate and reasonable to attract new people to our community and please the people who are currently here. We need to be able to make sure that we're not playing favorites with business, so that we maintain and give motivation to local business to build on their own and not at the cost of the taxpayers. We need to make sure that we don't follow some of the direction that we've seen and been frustrated with our national government. I'm not trying to slam we've got a wonderful country. We've got tremendous opportunity here. But we haven't always been overly pleased with the direction that our, I guess sometimes lackadaisical Congress has taken in regard to certain issues. I became very frustrated, and Eric, I've known you for years, in 2007 when our Congress, who I can say was at least partially responsible through lax oversight and misdirected government of the financial collapse that affected all of us and just pillaged our pocketbooks. You know, and then we had Congress, the same Congress, turn around and reward institutions that helped create that scheme to bankrupt our country, and then other institutions that were not as much of a part of it, or maybe were not rewarded and were driven out of business, and it just created a whole catastrophic situation that we're still feeling today, and we will feel for maybe another generation. It's just terrible. You know, everything starts at home. We take care of our business at home. Hopefully that contagion spreads, and we don't have to worry about that type of thing in the future.
Ken, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you for watching.